Hi, you're listening to YYC Sociables, Calgary's social experiences podcast. I'm your host, Sarah Sociables, and my job is to make sure you have something fun to look forward to on a weekly basis. In between these podcasts, get your fix by following me on Instagram at sarah.sociables. So in this week, I'm talking about all the fun stuff happening in Calgary from Monday, January 4th to the end of the week, Sunday, January 10th. We are in the new year now, so happy 2021. I have to get used to saying that. I hope you had a good New Year's Eve, whatever you were or most likely weren't doing. But yeah, so this is a bit of a weird episode for sure. But first, before I get into why it's weird, let's celebrate because this is my first official episode where I've been submitted to Apple Podcasts and Spotify. So depending on when you're listening to this week, you could be listening to it on those big platforms, which is amazing. I'm super excited to have moved out of the soft launch phase and actually be into the real world now and have people able to easily download my podcast instead of have to find it on Podbean, which I don't think anyone really has the Podbean app. So now I am legit and I'm super excited about that and happy that I've managed to come this far. So thank you if you are listening right now. But yeah, back to the weirdness. We are in the middle of a lockdown right now, and so it is the absolute worst time to launch a podcast that talks about events. And I realized that, but I didn't want to put it off for a couple of reasons. One, because I had planned to launch this in January, way back like 10 weeks ago in kind of November-ish when I started working on this. And that was before there was this whole big second wave that kind of exploded in Alberta. So I didn't see this coming. But I wanted to stick with the original plan because it didn't make sense to me to push it off while there was still some momentum behind it. Like I could wait until mid-January and hope that restrictions are eased and we're out of lockdown, but I don't even know if that's what's going to happen, and that could mean pushing into February, and I was just like, no, I'm not going to do that. And plus, I just feel like I don't want COVID to win, right? Like it seems like every time something is delayed or canceled, it's another win for COVID. So you know what? I'm not going to give in, not going to give up. This podcast is going ahead regardless, even if there's no events to talk about. And some of these first official episodes are really awkward and like the worst episodes. I feel like we can only go up from here in terms of content. So if you're expecting like a whole lot of events in this week's episode, sorry to disappoint you, there are no events happening in Calgary this week. So what I posted on Instagram yesterday is my usual list. Like I did the same format as usual, but instead of having like real events, I kind of just did filler stuff where I was like, these are suggestions of like fun things you could do during this time. I'm sorry that is the first time in 2 years that I've resorted to kind of inventing my own things you could do, but you know what? Desperate times come for desperate measures. And also, I feel like the essence of what I do is give you guys something that you can look forward to each week. So even if there aren't any events happening in the world, maybe you can put something in your calendar that's fun to do. I gave you an idea for that's something local, something for you to look forward to anyway that you will like and have a good time at. Maybe it's not so much a social event right now, but at least it's something. The first event that I have listed is to go to Zoo Light. So that is the one thing that is still on legitimately that you can visit. They are on until January the 10th. So you do still have time to go. It's probably not busy at all right now because it's after Christmas. It's $20 for adults and they're open 5 p.m. to 9 p.m. every day. My next suggestion for something to do would be to visit an outdoor Calgary art installation because there's a lot of art out there that you may or may not have seen. So I have a few examples here if you needed some inspiration. One is the WOM Plensa installation that is outside of the Bow building downtown. You might know it as that wire girl's head. Now, depending on if you work downtown or not, maybe you see this wire head all the time, but it actually is really cool. I think that it is one of Calgary's best art pieces, in my opinion. I know art's like subjective, but if you've never taken the chance to walk down there and see it, I highly suggest that you do. And it's free, right? You can go at any time, so there's a fun, safe activity for you. My next suggestion is to go to the Calgary Public Library in East Village. Now, you can't go in the library because it's closed right now, but the outside of the library is really beautiful. Like, the architecture is amazing, and they do have a trio of sculptures outside, and they are these tall, skinny drinking birds that are really cool. So I would suggest taking a look at that one too. And the third one is also in East Village. These are all really close together. You could do them all in one day, actually, now that I think about it. Third one is the Upside Down Church that's in East Village, and it's called Device to Root Out Evil, and it's like this upside down church where only like the top of the church is in the ground, so it looks really cool. So yeah, those are some suggestions. As you know, Calgary has a lot of other art installations. Some are more preferred than others, but these are some ones that I think you should check out and are worth spending maybe an afternoon on or something and get some cool photos. All right, the third item I have here is to maybe order food from somewhere new. I'm sure that you've been ordering a lot of takeout already, which is great. You're supporting local businesses. That's amazing. But maybe you're sick of ordering from the same old places. So I thought maybe challenge yourself to order from somewhere you've never eaten before, with either takeout or in the restaurant. I have a couple ideas for you in case you wanted some inspiration. Sometimes we all need to mix up our supper a little bit, right? So I found one on DoorDash that I haven't tried myself. It's called Simply Eerie Caribbean Cuisine, and it looks really good. It's got a 4.7 out of 5 rating on the DoorDash system. I was looking at some of the menu items that are popular, and their jerk chicken is really popular, as well as their oxtail and their curry goat. Those all sound really good. So that's an option for you. Again, it's called Simply Eerie, I-R-I-E, Caribbean Cuisine. So check that out if you're interested in having some Caribbean food. And my second suggestion for trying new food, if you haven't been to Oddball Burrito yet in Marda Loop area, it's really good. They opened up, I think, back in the summertime, and I live kind of nearby, so I've been there several times. These burritos are like, they're not even burritos. They're like a whole new variety of food. Because first of all, the size is like massive. It's more like a doubled over like pancake size or something. So it's like you could definitely share it with someone else. Like as one person, I cannot finish a whole one. And also, they have all these really bizarre flavor combinations. I was looking at their menu. I think they've changed up some of the things like since they first opened, but they're all like really weird combinations. So there's like a cowboy burrito that's got briskets, beans, and barbecue sauce. They've got a vegan burrito with chickpeas, and I remember trying that one. It was so good. They have a bacon cheeseburger burrito, and they have like a southwestern one. They have one with like a bunch of pickles in it. So yeah, the whole point of it is just to put like wacky stuff in burritos. So you should definitely try that one if you haven't already. So there's a couple different ideas for you to order some from somewhere new this week, or maybe come up with your own idea. Really, just there's no wrongs here, only rights. Just encouraging you to try something that you haven't before. All right, my next suggestion for something to do is to take a walk down 17th or Stephen Avenue. Now, if you're someone who lives downtown, maybe that's not very exciting to you. But if you are outside of the downtown area, like I don't know when the last time you walked on Stephen Avenue, but it's really pretty. I remember I used to work downtown and I'd walk to my office every day. So I was on Stephen Avenue twice a day every day, and it was kind of just part of my commute and I didn't think about it very much. And then I was talking to one of my friends, Andrea, and she's like, oh yeah, I went for dinner on Stephen Avenue and I hadn't been there in like a couple of years, and it's really beautiful on Stephen Avenue. Did you know that? And I was like, oh, I forgot that it's really beautiful, like even a tourist attraction area. So I think it's kind of like wasted on people a little bit if you're always downtown. So if you're someone who hasn't been on Stephen Avenue for a while, maybe it's worth going for a walk down there. Probably not a lot of things open, but it doesn't mean you couldn't like grab a coffee and go for a walk and enjoy it. My final suggestion for something to do would be to organize a virtual board game night, which maybe you've been doing some of these already, so this isn't really an exciting suggestion, but just a reminder that you can still socialize with people outside of your household virtually. A couple of ideas on how to do that would be the Jackbox online. It's got like interactive games that you can do that's really fun. And I was thinking you could also do something old-fashioned like charades, so you're actually like doing activities and laughing and like guessing what someone is doing. So I just wanted to say you can do either the newer, more high-tech, involved technology in some sort of a games night, or you could actually like pull out a board game and do it that way too. So yeah, just encouraging you to have something in your schedule that mixes it up a little bit this week. Hopefully that list of events inspired you a little bit. I tried, you guys. I really tried. Okay, so normally I'd switch to talk about the upcoming events for the week that I am personally involved in, but because there is none, I'm just going to mention the giveaways that I posted last week. So they are still on. Depending on what day of the week that you are listening to, you can probably still go on Instagram and enter these under whatever the corresponding post is. So the first one was for fried cookies from Mama E Cookie Snacks. The next one was for meat. There's a meat delivery service in Alberta for $100 worth of fresh meat, so that's awesome. The Make-A-Wish Balloon Artistry place is offering a large balloon bouquet as a prize, which is really awesome. If you go and look at the pictures, the balloon bouquets are amazing. There's also a hangover cure IV drip from Icaria Medical Spa Studio, so if you got a hangover, she will fix you up. And $25 to Craft Beer Market, who wouldn't want that, and $50 to Shoppers Drug Mart. Practical, there you go. So yeah, all those are still live as of this recording, so if you didn't get in on those contests, make sure that you do so. The next section here is on restaurant news, so obviously not a lot to talk about right now. I did want to give an update on one thing that you might have heard of in terms of restaurant gossip, and that is the new development being made in Bridgeland. I'm sure you heard about this like over in like the summer, or even this was probably like a year ago this was starting to like hit the news, because there's 3 very popular local places that are going to share a space, and so people are kind of like losing their minds because it's like everyone's favorites are in the same spot. Village Ice Cream, Phil and Sebastian Coffee, and Una Pizza are the 3 places that are going to be sharing the space. And along with Phil and Sebastian comes Hoopla Donuts, which is also a big fave for people. They have a whole cult following as well. The name of this building is General Block, which is a weird name. I feel like it's very forgettable, General Block. Anyway, so the 3 spaces on the bottom are going to be Village, Phil and Sebastian, and Una, and then there's space on the top floor for like another business or maybe office space or something, but apparently that is still empty. The reason I'm bringing this up is because there was an article about it in the Calgary Herald that actually did a little bit of background information on all 3 of these businesses, which I thought was a nice local highlight. So you can maybe check out that article in the Calgary Herald. Fortunately, there is no official opening date presented at this time for when we can check out this place. So I'm not quite sure where that is at in terms of development. If anyone knows, let me know. Maybe you live in the area and you can drive by and tell me. Okay, the next section would normally be brewery news, but I have no brewery news. I will do an update on Sober January. I did a poll on Instagram, and I think it was like close to 40% of you guys said you were also jumping on board with Sober January, which I was shocked by. Like, I thought it was gonna be like, I don't know, 5%, maybe 10% of people were doing it. So the fact that like 4 out of 10 people are being sober this January, that's a large group of people. So we're all in it together now. What I've committed to in my mind to doing is like a half sober January. That sounds bad, but like for the first 15 days, I'll go without any kind of alcohol, not even Bailey's in my coffee, which was really hard for me. As my friends know, I'm addicted to Bailey's, so no alcohol whatsoever. But then I'm gonna reassess when we hear about the restrictions potentially being lifted mid-January because we don't know if restaurants are going to open at that time. And I feel like if the pubs and the breweries are back open, I'm not going to go for a pint. So I kind of know myself well enough not to set myself up for failure like that. But if things do continue to be shut down, maybe I will do the last 2 weeks in January as a sober January as well. So that's where I'm at. Full disclosure, I have committed to a half sober January. You heard it here from my own lips, people. So far, so good. I haven't drank any alcohol the last few days. The next section, I would normally go over where I will be in the upcoming week and tell you about some cool place or cool event going on, but there is nothing happening this week. I am back to work though, so I will be working my regular 40-hour-a-week job from home. So yeah, I don't really have anything else going on. I have to take some of my own advice, I think, and put something in my calendar to look forward to, like whether it's a walk on Stephen Avenue or checking out some art or something myself. Then I'll have something to look forward to on the weekend. In terms of what I did last week, so I didn't really do anything. This seems a little bit boring. I don't know how much to tell you guys about my personal life. Like basically I sat on my computer and I wanted to make a cheese ball because I make like a really amazing, outstanding cheese ball. I have a great recipe that's my mom's recipe. And I didn't make the cheese ball because I didn't have the ingredients. This is how boring this story is. I was gonna make a cheese ball and I didn't make the cheese ball. So this is how interesting my life is, people. Anyway, we'll stop talking about what I did last week because it was literally nothing. What did you guys do last week? Did you spend any time doing Boxing Day shopping, or you probably didn't go to the mall. I feel like my listeners are smarter than that. But did you do any online shopping, or how did you spend your time in that weird gap of space between Christmas or New Year's? Let me know. I'm just gonna circle back to the bonus section that I did last week talking about pizza. So that was a new kind of filler. I admitted it was like a filler section that I did, but I wasn't sure if you guys liked it or not. I didn't hear a lot of feedback on that format. I thought it was good. I was personally very interested in pizza places. I did go through 10 pizza places, so it got kind of long, so maybe that was too many. But the problem is wherever I cut off the list, I'm always like cutting off good places, and people always say, oh, like you missed blank. I'm like, I know I did. Like if I added them, then it would be 15 best pizza places, and then it would be 20 best pizza places. And it's kind of like you just need to have a cutoff at some point. People always disagree with where that is. But yeah, I thought it was good. I think maybe I will do something similar to that again. Like I was talking about doing like a donut episode or something that is a popular food choice around Calgary. And I wanted to mention that a video I made regarding that pizza content went, I don't want to say viral, because viral is like a strong word, but it's probably the most viral I've ever been. It's up to like 20,000 views right now on TikTok, which is pretty decent, I think. And I just talked about like the 5 best pizzas in Calgary. That's essentially what the video was. So I didn't know that it was going to be one that people would really resonate with and be liking and sharing and viewing. So that's kind of cool. All right, so that is basically the end of this podcast for the week. Like I said, for I think like the 3rd time here, I apologize that this is a weird episode, but thank you for listening. Things will only get better content-wise as events start to pick up in Calgary, but I appreciate that you're here during the beginning, during the lockdown, during kind of the bear period. That means that much more to me to have you as a listener. If you have any questions or suggestions about anything, feel free to send me a DM on Instagram. I really appreciate that you're interested enough to do that and are interested in these topics that I am interested in. If you want to support the continuation of this podcast, the most important thing you could do for me right now is to leave a review. And the reason for that is because when you upload your podcast to Spotify and Apple, you only get one chance to get on their new and noteworthy podcast lists, and how they decide if your podcast is worthy of that is based on the number of reviews it gets within the first like probably 24 hours to maybe like 1 week, 7 days ish of like being live. So if you could leave me a review on either of those platforms, or if you listen on another platform, that's totally fine too, and I really appreciate reviews everywhere. That would mean so much for me right in this stage. Any review at all, it can be a good review, you can even give me a bad review, or give me a funny review, or just say like hello, or leave some emojis, like I don't care. Like as long as you leave some sort of review, that makes like a huge difference in terms of that algorithm. So yeah, that is my goal. Thank you so much if you were able to do that for me this week. So bye for now. I will see you next week, and maybe by then I'll be able to update you if we made it to that list.